Hi, I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Amy.
And you're listening to She Goes by Jane.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Amy.
Vanessa, today is actually a special edition of She Goes by Jane, I guess we could call it.
I guess. Yeah, we're doing something different today.
We are doing something different. So in the U.S. this week, it is the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
We have Thanksgiving coming up for Americans.
Yep.
Even you are celebrating.
I get 2 Thanksgivings.
Right.
Yep.
So we thought we would try something a little bit different this week, which is to have a live reading of a GIRLHUNT newsletter.
Which is kind of cool. And I think it would make some fun listening for people who have to drive somewhere during the holidays.
Exactly. So for those of you who do not know, we, of course, have this podcast together, but I have the GIRLHUNT newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And I created GIRLHUNT specifically because I wanted there to be a place to talk about other types of violence against women, other ways women are involved in crime, like sometimes as victims, sometimes as perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a destination for me to talk about things like ethics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Upcoming true crime books.
Right. And sometimes it's actually related to the podcast.
Yes. So sometimes when I'm like, I really want to discuss this complete rabbit hole that I went down more, GIRLHUNT gives me an avenue to do that. So this is the first time we are trying to read it out loud as an episode.
You'll be reading it out loud.
You will not be reading it out loud.
I will not be reading it out loud. But yeah, I think it's kind of nice too, because this isn't as violent, is it?
Well, okay, so this version of GIRLHUNT,
this particular episode won't be as violent as usual.
No. So I have a bunch of different series going on at the GIRLHUNT newsletter, which I hope we can create some space to do some more of these in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are, murdery.
Yeah.
But this one is attempted murdery.
No deaths.
No deaths occur in this episode.
Right. Which is refreshing to me.
Yes. So refreshing too. So to frame this out, before we really get in, this actually connects to one of the podcast episodes that we've already done.
Mm-hmm.
And the podcast episode that we did was on Bessie Hyde, who I am utterly fascinated by. So Bessie was this young artist, right? She grew up in West Virginia. She moved to California. She was a divorcee, fascinating life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she ends up meeting this guy named Glenn. And the two of them decide that they're going to go on an adventure, which is to go down the Colorado River.
Right. And that one's actually a good episode too, because that one's kind of missing/death by misadventure.
Right.
There's actually no violence or right?
No, there's
no violence.
There's not well thought out decisions.
Right, but bad planning is very different than deliberate violence against a woman.
Exactly.
So he was not trying to have what happened happen, like her husband. He just anyways, I think it's a good episode too to listen to if you want a little holiday break from murder.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I was like, actually, Glenn was a bit underprepared and
He's
overconfident.
underprepared, but he didn't I think he really loved Bessie.
He did really love Bessie. The two of them met. It was clearly they were enamored with each other. They had this plan, mostly because they wanted to go on the lecture circuit, right? And I love that episode so much. And Bessie is just a fascinating person to me. But as I was researching Bessie, I came across the fact that she had a roommate when she lived in California, and that roommate was a Hollywood actress.
Right. I think, did we touch on that a little bit in that episode?
We lightly touched on it.
Very lightly. So I think this would be a great compliment to it. So if you guys haven't listened to Bessie's yet, I think listening to this and then listening to that one might be really fun. I don't know why I'm thinking that everyone's commuting. So everyone's driving somewhere for the holidays. This is going to be so much fun for you in your car, guys. But anyway.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm planning out your route now, too. I'm going to plan your snacks.
Someone needs to.
Someone needs to.
It's not me. Someone brings the snacks for me. So the fact that she these two women are roommates before any of this stuff even happens, before Greta's a Hollywood actress, before Bessie even thinks about going on this grand adventure. Is fascinating to me that their worlds collided. So this is just a little peek at who Greta was. Not the entirety of her life. She had a very rich and complicated life, but this is a little snippet of who Greta was.
Right. So you're going to get into it. So I guess the only thing I'm going to advise our listeners on is try to keep track of Greta and her many names.
Yes. Greta.
Because I read this and I was like, wait, where? What? Who? Who knew?
Greta goes by three different names.
Yeah. So if you hear three different names while you're listening, it's all Greta.
They're all the same person.
Yeah.
But one thing that you can do to help support GIRLHUNT is to subscribe. So if you go to girlhuntmedia.com, you can subscribe to the newsletter. It encourages me basically to keep on telling these stories. It's free. It's just another different way to get some more true crime content. Also subscribe to She Goes by Jane, because those subscriptions help us get our stories out in front of people. Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. In February 1927, a ship left San Francisco in a haze of fog and salt. Among the passengers were two women reinventing themselves, an adventurous art student from West Virginia named Bessie Haley, and her roommate, a petite blonde with a secret named Greta Granstedt. The two were, perhaps, an unlikely pairing. Bessie had come west to start over. A year earlier, the college student had eloped with her high school sweetheart and then left him just as suddenly. California had been her fresh start. Art school, independence, and freedom from the expectations of everyone back east. Settling into city life, Bessie began taking classes at the California School of Fine Arts. That's where she met Greta. As one of the school's nude models, Greta was frequently in and out of the school's classrooms. By the time winter arrived, the two had become roommates, sharing a small apartment with Greta's brother Theo, who also modeled at the school. But Greta, the petite blonde with gammon face, had bigger plans than posing for painters. Hollywood was calling, and she was determined to answer. She convinced Bessie to purchase a one-way ticket south, promising sunshine, work, and a new kind of freedom. The ship to Los Angeles was crowded that day. Tourists with cameras, businessmen in pressed hats, and young dreamers like Greta and Bessie heading toward the city of magic. Somewhere on that deck, as the wind whipped her bobbed hair around her face, Bessie met Glenn Hyde, a farmer, surveyor, and adventurer. Neither could foretell that in a year and a half, they'd disappear on an ill-fated trip down the Colorado River. They just knew that, in that moment, they never wanted to leave each other's side. When the ship docked, Greta stepped off as someone else entirely. She left her old name behind like a costume that didn't fit and transformed into Greta Granstedt. As Greta, she could be anyone she wanted, so she crafted her identity carefully. The Greta she invented was born in Sweden, raised on a Kansas farm, before making her way to San Francisco to try her luck as a dancer. By then, the lights of Hollywood beckoned. As Greta, she was destined for the silver screen from the start. For a moment, everyone bought the story. Bit parts became more substantial roles, and Greta became a familiar figure around the studio lots, her pencil-sharp eyebrows and bobbed blonde hair instantly recognizable. She appeared along stars like Barbara Stanwyck, Boris Karloff, Ginger Rogers, and Bing Crosby, part of Hollywood's glittering tapestry of stars during the late 1920s and 30s. Fame, however, was never the full story. Greta's life off-screen was as dramatic as any script. She married 8 times. Her first Hollywood marriage was to Ramon Ramos, a bandleader and dancer, and it's with this marriage the cracks in her carefully constructed identity began to show. When digging into the details of her marriage, the press learned that Greta was not Swedish at all, nor was her name Greta. Born Irene Louise Granstedt in Kansas, that much was at least true. She and her family settled in Mountain View, California. But that revelation only hinted at larger secrets she had taken with her to LA. Even as the cameras flashed and audience cheered, Greta carried a history no one on the studio lot could imagine. The girl who once hid behind an acacia tree with a gun in her hand, waiting to strike, was very much still inside her. Hollywood lights could illuminate a new name, a new face, a new story, but they couldn't erase what had happened in San Jose, California, years before. Secrets, like shadows, have a way of stretching, and for Greta Granstedt, the shadow that followed her westward would eventually come into a bright glare of public attention. To understand her Hollywood story fully, you have to step back to the spring of 1922, when she was just 14, and the boy she loved nearly lost his life. In June of 1921, 14-year-old Greta and 17-year-old Harold met and became inseparable. They began attending parties and social events together, but Greta would soon be caught up between love and rebellion. Harold's parents and Greta's father never approved of the match and masterminded ways to keep the couple apart. Harold's father said it was simply their ages that kept him wary of their continued relationship, stating, "The only objection I had to the marriage of the two was on the grounds of their ages. Harold is just a little over 17, and Irene, as she was then known, is not yet 15. The infatuation between them seemed ridiculous. The girl is running around in jumpers and overalls all last summer and is nothing but a child." The only one who supported the relationship was Greta's mother. Despite their devotion to one another, Greta and Harold often fought bitterly. Harold's family was pressuring him to join the military. It was a move that was going to take him away from Greta. She began to suspect he was planning on abandoning her. To prove that she could move on without him, Greta started attending parties with other boys, angering Harold, who thought she was over him. "You're too low to speak to in public," Harold said to Greta, lobbing a heartbreaking insult at his young girlfriend. The tensions between them grew, reaching a fever pitch on the night of April 18th, 1922. By that Tuesday night, Greta and Harold weren't speaking. Harold made plans without her, arranging to attend a church social that evening. Greta had plans of her own. She drove to her friend Curtis's house and asked to borrow a gun under the pretense that she planned to practice shooting up in the hills. Instead, Greta waited outside the parish house that night, concealing herself in the shadows behind an acacia tree. Concealed in darkness, she waited for Harold to leave. When he did, around 9 p.m., his route took him down the street in Greta's direction. Stepping from behind the tree, she revealed herself. "What's the use of fighting anymore?" Harold asked her. "Let's be friends again." But friendship wasn't what Greta wanted. Wounded from his repeated insults over the past few days, her heart was bruised. She raised the gun, the barrel glinting in the moonlight. "No," she said, "I'm not good enough for you to speak to at school, and I'm not good enough to be friends. Go on and shoot." "I'm not yellow," Harold said. And that's when the gun went off. A bullet entered Harold's abdomen. Gasping, Greta ran towards Harold, who lay on the ground, and tried to staunch the flow of blood with a handkerchief. When that was unsuccessful, she ran to a nearby house. First, though, she hid the gun. We'll be back in a moment. Newspapers across the country pounced on the story. A teenage lover's quarrel, a boy hovering between life and death, and a young girl accused of pulling the trigger. Every detail was irresistible. Greta's face appeared in paper after paper, reporters marveling at how perfectly she fit the flapper image. The sharp bob, the rolled-down stockings, the penciled lips. That she wrote poetry only sealed the deal. She became, overnight, a symbol of wayward, modern girlhood, whether she wanted to or not. Doctors initially worried about the severity of Harold's abdominal wound, but infection posed a greater risk. Before it could take hold, Harold spoke up for Greta from his hospital bed. He insisted that she wasn't to blame. The gun had gone off, he said, only because they were both trying to control it. It was an accident, an emotional moment gone wrong. Even as Harold fought to stay alive, others rallied around Greta. Harold's father publicly stated that the relationship had never been appropriate. Greta was simply too young for anything serious. Willis Hester, the school's principal, backed this up. Irene was just a little girl. Harold was a boy of 17, he said. I told her not to see so much of Harold outside of school. This may have been outside of my province, but no one else apparently told her. Hester added that Harold resented the interference. A friction he feared only intensified the teen's turmoil. Over the next months, Harold's condition slowly stabilized. Despite repeated newspaper headlines prematurely declaring his death and branding Greta a murderer, he survived. The relationship did not. Instead of murder, Greta was charged with assault with a deadly weapon. Harold's father filed the charge, though he stressed he was acting on the recommendation of San Jose authorities who wanted the case formally addressed. When Harold finally took the stand, he repeated his story. I told her to give me the gun, as I would feel safer if I had it instead of her. The gun was pointed at me, I guess about my legs. I reached out for the gun, and as I touched it with my hand, it went off. Although the charge against her was ultimately dropped, Greta was made a ward of the juvenile court. Whatever reformatory school looked like in practice, it may not have been harsher than what she experienced at home. In interviews, Mrs. Granstedt made it painfully clear that life under Greta's father was often traumatic. She told reporters that he hated his own child, that Greta lived in fear inside her own house. Years later, when Greta appeared in films and gossip columns, newspapers would resurrect the story, claiming she had once been banned from Mountain View by court order, a bit of myth-making that was meant to explain why she never went back. But Greta wasn't done making headlines. In 1923, she appeared in the papers again, this time for eloping. At 16, she claimed to be 18 so she could marry Robert Bleiber. The deception didn't hold. The marriage was annulled quickly. She simply wasn't old enough to marry in California. She married once more, this time to an artist, although the union unraveled just as quickly. By the time she met Bessie Hyde in San Francisco, Greta was barely out of girlhood and already twice married, twice divorced, and thoroughly familiar with reinvention. And Harold? He did join the military just as he'd hoped. But in 1924, at 19, he was arrested for the statutory rape of a 15-year-old girl. The newspapers dutifully covered that case too, that it was a story that was unlikely to have reached Greta. Hollywood loved reinvention, and Greta Granstedt proved remarkably easy to mythologize. Studios framed her as a plucky survivor with an air of tragic glamour, a girl who had seen life before he'd stepped in front of cameras. Reporters sharpened the parallels between her past and the rising fame, painting her as a wild child whose Hollywood exploits and marriages kept her name in the papers. Greta would never reach the heights of Hollywood fame that she had dreamed of, but she achieved something few Kansas farm girls could. When Greta left Bessie Hyde on the docks in Los Angeles, she had already learned to navigate the gap between who she was and who the world imagined her to be. Bessie, who would soon be married for a second time and full of restless energy, would leave that ship and prepare for the Colorado River journey that would eventually define her missing persons legend. Their time as roommates wasn't long, but it was enough to make their stories brush against each other. Two young women, bright with possibility, sharing a room at a moment before their paths diverged entirely. Greta could not know then that her roommate would one day vanish without a trace. And Bessie, lacing her boots and planning a daring voyage with Glenn, could not imagine that the woman brushing her hair beside her, the aspiring actress with a complicated past, would go on to become a Hollywood starlet, endlessly remade by the papers. They were just two young women on the edge of adulthood, stepping into futures neither of them can predict. One towards a river canyon she'd never return from, the other towards a screen-lit life she never fully controlled.
That was such a great story, Amy.
I mean, this is like one of the things, just like, Greta's little brush with crime, like, just wouldn't normally be covered in our podcast or really in any podcast, because it's just like, there's not much to it, right?
Right, but it's still so interesting and like, kind of like what a little badass she was.
Right.
She's only 14. She's fully like into the flapper. Look, she's out dating. And now he pisses her off a little bit. And what does she do?
She's like, I'm going to shoot him.
I'm going to shoot him.
Yeah.
But then as soon as she does it, oops.
But like, she hides the gun.
Right. But I mean, she does try to save him first. It's
like,
the whole thing is just
briefly,
great.
She's like handkerchief. Oh, no.
Oops.
Tucks the gun and then runs for help.
Yeah. But it's just like, it's one of those things. I think people are always like, oh, kids these days.
No.
And then I'm like, kids those days.
Right.
That's a 14-year-old who's like hiding in the shadows with a gun.
Yeah.
After her like 17-year-old boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, and it's just like,
it's wild.
You've got Harold, and it's just like, at first you're like, oh my God, like Harold. Then you find out like he's got this like history where he's like arrested for statutory rape later, like.
Right, like his type is obviously like young 14,
girls.
15.
Yeah.
I mean, when he's 17, it's one thing, like then especially. Now I think that feels like an enormous age gap because like, whoa, she's 14, he's 17.
Yeah. I mean, my kid is closing in on 14 and I'm like, oh, would I let her? No.
No, see, it's especially at that stage in development, there's a huge difference between like development and experience between 14 and 17.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we see it that way. But I think then it was like the age gap was the least of their worries at that point.
Right. And it's just like fascinating because just like nobody wanted them together. Right.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting because like she's kind of painted as like this like terrible kid, but then you hear the principal talking about her and it's clear he's worried about her.
But I mean, those two things can coexist, right?
Right.
You could be kind of a horrible kid, but also kind of a great kid at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think he felt that way about her. I didn't get that sense, but I did get the sense that he was not a Harold fan.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like this like little complicated story that like just really wouldn't make it into the podcast originally, nor be a feature of another podcast. And that's kind of like the difference of what I hope like Girl Hunt brings is like these little moments of time where you're like, oh, like this is an interesting little like story or historical happening that I would have been forgotten.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a story worth hearing, but not notable enough that they're going to make like a docuseries about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and you know, like telling the grand scope of Greta's life, which was complicated. Again, like she goes on to like total has like 8 marriages. Like she's in film. Like
Well, the whole thing was, so when I was like reading this myself, I'm like, and we had talked about it a little bit when we did Bessie's episode, but it was like Irene, Greta. Like
yeah.
I had to keep reminding myself, same girl.
Yeah.
But
she just like reinvents herself over and over. And it's just like, those are the stories that I'm fascinated by, but like, I don't think get enough like attention. So I hope that's what Girl Hunt does, is it gives those stories a little bit more air to breathe. So if you found this interesting, like I hope you will subscribe to Girl Hunt, and if you would like to have more special episodes, please let us know, because we never know will this work or not.
Right. Feedback is always great. You can go visit us on Facebook or Instagram and give us some feedback on that.
Yeah,
it's really appreciated. Also, if you like the story, go listen to Bessie's the episode about Bessie, because she is a different brand of wild.
Yes,
2 very differently wild girls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's like full outdoor adventure sketchbook girl. Like,
yeah. So to me, it's like it's fascinating that these like very different types.
Yeah.
Of like at this time they're like teenagers, right?
Yeah.
Like room together and live together because like their stories and lives are just like
both
kind
adorable,
of an odd couple.
Both like, but in different directions. Both adventurous in different directions. It's just it's a little adventure, that one too. So yeah.
So hopefully just let us know what you think, and I'm happy that we could bring you a little snippet of Girl Hunt this week.
For more information about our show, please visit shegoesbyjanepodcast.com.
Bye, Vanessa.
Bye, Amy.